I have never taken a single class with Mr. Childers, and that's the best decision I've ever made.
Solid!
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
Hello and welcome to Lesson 12 of U.S. History After School, Franklin Roosevelt and the New Deal. This lesson follows Chapter 26 of the totally free, totally awesome OpenStax textbook. If you're not familiar with the textbook or don't have a copy, you can find a link in the description of this video. This video is best viewed as part of the U.S. History After School playlist. If you're not viewing it on the playlist or you don't know what that is, you can also find a link to the playlist in the description of this video. So it's a burning dumpster fire in the United States during the Great Depression, and President Herbert Hoover is every bit as popular as you can imagine a president over a burning dumpster fire would be. And yet 1932 is election season, and President Hoover regains the Republican nomination and runs for re-election. But just barely. Observers from the time describe him as beaten and acting almost as if he didn't want the job anymore. Lucky for him, he wasn't going to get the job anymore. Whatever amount of blame he actually deserves for the Depression and for the failure of what few recovery efforts there are, certainly in his own time he was widely despised and widely blamed for the Depression. The Democrats, on the other hand, nominated Franklin Delano Roosevelt, an incredibly charismatic figure who swept to victory with 57% of the popular vote, winning all but 6 states. When the Democrats nominated Roosevelt for president, in his acceptance speech at the Democratic Convention, he promised to offer a new deal for the American people. What he hadn't done is figured out the details of what that would be like. But what was certain was that Roosevelt had a very different vision for the role of government in the day-to-day lives of Americans, for the relationship between government and business and the free market, a very different vision from Hoover. If you're wondering what that odd pause was, let there be no mistake. That was me absolutely forgetting what I had meant to say. What Roosevelt did, because he was pretty thin on particulars, is he surrounded himself with experts in various economic, industrial, business, civic fields, a group of people that came to be known as the Brain Trust. And he worked very collaboratively with the Brain Trust to craft policies that would, at least in his expectation, turn the economy around and bring Happy Days back to the United States. Happy Days Are Here Again became the official campaign theme song of the Roosevelt campaign. Having such a different vision for what the role of a president and what the role of the government should be in economic affairs in the country, it created some awkwardness after he won. At the time, presidents are elected in November, and they don't take office until the following March, leaving a 5-month lame duck period wherein the defeated president remains president of the United States with all the powers and responsibilities that go with that. So during this 5-month period, Roosevelt is putting together all these ideas, and yet they're so different from what Hoover has in mind that Hoover's certainly not acting on them, and Hoover's not changing anything. All along, his line had been, well, this isn't a direct quote, but his attitude had been, hey, this will take care of itself. The market will sort this out. Hoover's a firm believer in a free, one might even say licentious market, almost totally unregulated market, and Hoover still has his hopes placed in that. So you've got this 5-month period where Americans are all excited, hey, Roosevelt's going to turn this around, and yet nothing is happening because Herbert Hoover is still president. This will lead to an amendment to the Constitution, the 20th Amendment. A 5-month waiting period, a 5-month lame duck period, may have made sense in the 1700s when travel was slow and communication was slow, and if you're elected president, it just takes some time to get your affairs in order and gather a team and make your way to Washington, D.C. But by 1932, we're already in the era of mass communication and rapid transportation. And so the 20th Amendment to the Constitution will shorten the length of time that someone must wait after being elected president before taking office as president. So today and ever since, so all throughout my life and certainly the lives of my students, the president is now inaugurated on January 20th rather than waiting for March. Roosevelt hit another bump in the road during his waiting period for taking office when there was an assassination attempt on his life. The bullet missed him and it hit Mayor Cermak of Chicago, who lingered for some time but actually did succumb to the bullet. So Mayor Cermak was assassinated. And at any rate, you'll see all about this stuff in the videos to follow. With this lesson, I'm trying to get a lot more exhaustive with the number of videos I provide on each topic, and so I'm going to try to keep my commentary in between to the bare minimum necessary to put the videos in context. A, I know that breaks your heart, that you'll probably hear less from me, and B, if you know me, you know it's very unlikely that I will succeed in making the videos shorter. I mean, come on, I should have stopped. It's 7 minutes into this one, and I should have stopped it 6.5 minutes ago. At any rate, what you'll see next in the playlist is a feature on the early life of Franklin Roosevelt from Ken Burns, great documentarian. After that, U.S. History Help will come in and talk to you all about the 1932 election. We'll see a clip of President Roosevelt making his acceptance speech, after which we'll have a short expose on the 20th Amendment. We'll look at the assassination attempt on President Roosevelt. We'll look at his team of experts, the Brain Trusts. Ted Payne will bring that to us. And then we will get to see Roosevelt inaugurated as president and hear his famous address where he says the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. If you have a careful ear while you listen to Franklin Roosevelt's address, you'll also hear him say some interesting things about his vision for himself as president and the kind of power a president ought to have. In some points, it is somewhat Palpatine-esque. Nevertheless, after Roosevelt is inaugurated, I'll be back with you.